Use a screwdriver to open the latches on the LECO's right side panel. Then, remove the side panel. Disconnect the power plug that connects the bottom of the ballast to the power supply in the instrument case. Disconnect the C-flex tubing from the two fittings on the bottom of the ballast assembly. Disconnect the air line connected to the brass fitting on the top of the ballast assembly. Remove the screw on the back of the case that helps hold in the ballast assembly. Then remove the thumb screw on the inside of the case, and the ballast assembly will be able to move freely. Slide the ballast assembly sideways out of the case. Be careful, it is ungainly and very fragile. Lay the ballast assembly on its side on a counter to begin disassembly. Use a hex wrench or box wrench to loosen and remove the threaded rods that hold the ballast assembly together. When removing the ends of the assembly, be sure to keep a hand on the ballast tank. They're most commonly broken when they roll off the counter during disassembly, and cost an average of $800. Push the piston out of one end of the ballast tank, and then stand the tank on end. Use the plastic O-ring tool to remove the two large O-rings from the piston. Then use the same O-ring tool to remove the gaskets from the ends of the ballast assembly. Inspect the O-rings from the piston and replace them if necessary. Apply a layer of grease that's slightly thicker than the layer of grease on other O-rings in the LECO system. Once they're greased, replace them in the grooves on the piston. Wash the ballast tank and use a mild soap or detergent to remove the layer of grease. Make sure to dry the tank thoroughly with paper towels before continuing. Apply a generous layer of grease inside the first 2 inches of either end of the ballast tank. Insert the piston and push it through the ballast tank repeatedly to spread the grease around. Repeat until the grease is spread evenly and the piston moves more freely than before. Inspect the gaskets from the ends of the ballast assembly and replace them if they're damaged. Apply a generous but even layer of grease to each of the gaskets to help ensure a secure fit. Once the grease is applied, replace the gaskets in the ends of the ballast assembly. When reassembling the ballast assembly, you'll need to push the piston slightly into the ballast tank to give clearance for both end plates to fit. After both end plates are back in place, Reinsert and tighten the threaded rods that hold the ballast assembly together. When tightening the threaded rods, alternate between rods that are diagonal from each other to make sure that the pressure is evenly applied. Reattach the air line before placing the ballast assembly back in the case. The fitting should be tightened with a wrench, and you'll want to have somebody else help you support the ballast assembly, otherwise you risk dropping it. Slide the ballast assembly into the groove on the bracket in the back of the case. Replace the thumb screw that holds the ballast upright inside the case. Replace the screw on the back of the case that helps support the ballast assembly. Make sure to use both the flat and locking washers that came with the screw. Reconnect the C-flex tubing to the fittings on the base of the ballast assembly. Finally, reconnect the power plug that connects the ballast to the power supply.